The Christopher Peter Review is made for me and you. An economic perspective, completely objective. The Review, for the way you see the world.
Welcome. Regardless of what your political or worldviews are, your economic interests are best served by maximizing the available resources you have access to. If you are a business owner trying to fuel growth and market share, the more capital, the better opportunities you have to attract talent, equipment, and technology. If you are a philanthropist and want to make the world a better place, the more resources you are able to generate enables more projects and causes you are able to support. If you are simply a regular person working a 9-to-5, but want some flexibility beyond your bi-weekly paycheck, then making your money grow is of interest. I am not trying to sell you on anything, except on the idea that the financial practice of investing is not exclusive to the suits on the posh buildings on Wall Street in New York City. Every person should have some plan for making the earnings grow to maximize the economic interests and path to economic freedom. I have discussed my epiphany into how investing impacted my daily life. If you are interested, please listen to my American Dreams 2.0 episode. Also, I am not going to give financial advice. Sound financial advice should come from a licensed financial expert that understands your personal situation, goals, and constraints. What I will offer weekly is my journey through identifying brands and companies that I believe have potential for growth, and whether my expectations were proven right or wrong in a small weekly sample size experience. Investing is really a long-term endeavor, not really meant for quick wins or losses. My focus will be more on the brands and companies and my reasoning behind the choices. Consider the fact that outcomes can be impacted by factors outside the fundamentals of the company or industry or the quality of technical analysis done on the data and available research. The market is susceptible to events that may have direct or indirect impacts on the organization, competitors, or their customers. In the current environment, this is no exception. For my first week run, I wanted to test how well artificial intelligence would do in advising with what stocks are poised for growth. There are many potential benefits for artificial intelligence, but there are some limitations as well. So I wanted to see how well the information would play out in actual practice. Based on checking on Gemini and ChatGPT, I found that investors were high on commodity-backed stock over the traditional tech stocks that fueled prior market growth. Two companies listed were McDonald's and ExxonMobil as they were seeing strong financial returns. Early in this year, the market has soured on tech stocks that some view as overvalued. What did I think of these stocks? McDonald's is probably one of the most consistent and stable corporations in America. They are a brand well known to the public. They are practically everywhere and accessible to people of all backgrounds and economic classes. Let's face it, everyone likes to have McDonald's even solely as a cheat meal or snack. In the market for fast food, they probably are the most consistent. There seems to be some challenges for Burger King, Taco Bell, and Wendy's lately. I cannot recall the last time I have seen any location with a reasonable amount of customers when you would expect a food place to be busy. On the other hand, McDonald's seems to always have traffic, and they had the most stable performance in 2025. For ExxonMobil, they are the largest energy company and have a wide portfolio of energy assets in both traditional and green energy. They are a global multinational that is an elite performer in the global energy market, so they will always be a safer, less volatile performer in my opinion. So, I felt that both McDonald's and ExxonMobil are two safe picks, but could also lack the volatility that could lead to higher returns. To balance these out, we decided to track two stocks outside of the recommendation. We were kind of obligated to pick the current heavyweight in Nvidia, who is producing the most sought-after chips on the market and have been skyrocketing in value and market capitalization since the artificial intelligence boom started. With an ear to the ground, we also added General Dynamics because of their presence in the defense market. Given the current operations in the Middle East, we were interested to see if there would be any gains on their stock performance. I was not anticipating any, but interested to track just in case. Keep in mind that not every stock mentioned on this podcast will be actually purchased. We may be just tracking the rise and falls, and whether there is anything to glean from a quick one-week review, a quarter, and longer. In this case, the one-week performance was essentially flat. Overall, the change in value is down compared to the start. On our tracker, we assume a purchase of 5 shares in every stock we will track. Keep the math simple and the change is easy to spot. My thoughts from the first week was that this was the expected outcome. These are not highly volatile stocks that will fluctuate greatly. Including Nvidia, these all now will have some level of stable and consistent growth. Nvidia is not the rocket ship providing hundreds to thousands in gains daily lately as it has matured. I cannot ignore the outside factors, like the fact that we are engaged in a military operation that has impacted the global energy market, thus impacting the financial market as well. So, the financial repercussions are clear and present. Also, there are going to be some effects related to the partial government shutdown. So, I am not completely stunned by the results. Now, I will keep all these stocks in the tracker for at least another week, just to get more data points. And eventually I will start to triage these into what will make the roster and what will be released, an investment tracker like a sports roster. Next week, we grow the tracker even more and give more insight.
I truly believe that our public policy should have purpose and not just simply the exercise of political leanings of our elected officials. Honestly, I am not really concerned on the greater scale of their feelings and leanings, but what they are proposing to enact and what the impact it will have on the American people, our economy, and our overall society. Politics should not ever be about the politician's personal leanings if it is not aligned with positively impacting the experience of American taxpayers, citizens and legal residents' everyday life, or future opportunities available. Meaning, if they oppose something, then they need to articulate the reason and offer an opposing policy and why it addresses the problem better. Or if there is no substitute, then please make the case for why doing nothing is substantially better than doing something that will be bad. I think that is a fair standard to apply to both sides. But I am not sure that is what is really taking place in our politics. And we are seeing that with the current partial government shutdown, which does not really make much sense. We know that government shutdowns are not a positive event for our economy and function of our society. If you are going to allow a government shutdown to happen, then it better be for a good reason. As with any politically charged issue, there are always many factors to weigh. Who is responsible for this government shutdown? The common argument is to try to blame the party in power or the majority. But our procedural rules protect the minority, so there are requirements for minimal votes to ensure there is some level of bipartisanship. The blame does not automatically go to the party in the majority. We must weigh what is the reasoning being given by the minority to withhold support, and is that reasoning exclusively political, principled, or reasonable? If the proposed policy is so off-putting, then society should hold the majority accountable. The reason for this partial shutdown seems to boil down to political positions on illegal immigrants. The purpose for Democrats withholding support for what amounts to the normal funding of our government operations is because they are standing 10 toes down for those without legal reason to enter our society and trying to prevent their legal removal. The goal is to defund ICE. That is really what their position boils down to. The sad reality for Americans and Democrats is that the funding they are harming has nothing to do with ICE, which is already funded for the next 3 to 4 years reportedly. So, there is no direct policy in what they are holding up. That is one fact to consider. Another is that the legitimacy of their argument is not solid. They are on the wrong side of history in the argument. They are putting Americans in major inconveniences and harm because of their political interests with people who do not have a legal right to reside inside our borders. Harm millions of Americans for the interest of those who are by default a criminal actor as they have violated our immigration laws. Americans overwhelmingly support the immigration policies of President Trump and the positions on the issue of Republicans. Most rational people do not want their interests impeded because of the interests of people who are not in good standing with society and the rule of law. Why should the good hardworking people in American society suffer because of the invalid interests of those who did not even follow the legal process? Americans support immigration, that is why there is a legal immigration process. That is something conveniently left out of the discussion. So people who fail to do the right thing are placed in greater concern than the people who do the right thing, make the right decisions, and pay taxes for the services they expect to receive. Yet, we do not receive those services because of people who have no interest in following our laws, and receive more benefits than the taxpayers do? President Trump seemed to try to help provide Democrats with an over-ramp. Hopefully, they will take it. The Democrat argument is neither just nor valid. It is purely political to protect the pawns they are trying to use to influence the political landscape that is shifting away from them.
We have talked about the many reasons why organizations want to incorporate artificial intelligence into their daily operations. The potential for greater efficiency that will directly impact the bottom line. The one question or topic we are not addressing or ready to address yet publicly is why it is needed beyond the marketable benefits. How can we put this gently? The real reason why companies and their business leaders are embracing artificial intelligence is because people have become too difficult to deal with. For most of them, the juice is simply not worth the squeeze. I will agree with the notion that the reason workers are not what they used to be is somewhat because leaders are not what they used to be either. But the reality is that people are simply too demanding while being greatly underproductive and unaccountable in many environments. Doing what is expected is not something to be rewarded but the bare minimum of why a company is willing to pay you for a service. Now, doing a job at a higher level that your peers consistently should stand out. Now, there are many issues that I have with how some companies manage their staff and how little they do to develop their talent, while some have outrageous expectations or operate under clouds of biases for the people that work for them. But there is an issue with the labor side as well. Like many laborers did when they had stimulus funds keeping them on the sidelines, hiring managers will find alternatives to dealing with the whims and irrational expectations of some staff members if they are able to. For most workers, the quality of artificial intelligence is not yet at the point of replacing their usefulness. While there are many benefits of artificial intelligence, there are many things that technology cannot replace by simply leveraging past data points. There are still benefits of having human intuition involved in everyday business processes. That said, there is an importance for people to not take for granted that there is an eventual replacement for you out there. While there are legitimate issues to address, there is a need to balance the need for access as well as future-proofing yourselves from obsolescence. Believing that some form of universal basic income will be suitable for you will show that the reality is far from desirable. People are never truly cared for by any government program. The best path in life is one where you have agency and some level of ability to control your lifestyle. Not what some bureaucrat determines is good enough for you. And if you want to have that, you will have to convince a company that you are a better option than some program that they may deem good enough.
In many ways, our allies in Europe have not lived up to what we can truly consider a partner on the global stage, despite having numerous chances to stand side by side with the nation that has saved them time and time again, and is bankrolling the bulk of the global initiatives that we partner on. All the while, the narrative has always been that it would be the United States that would jeopardize the alliance. Again, we have picked up more than our fair share of the costs and Europe has not even come close to meeting their contractual commitments. But the perception is that America would be the one that ends that alliance, not the ones catering to our collective enemies for energy and cheap labor. Now, there are some legitimate reasons why some of our allies may be squeamish to live up to their role on global initiatives that they have a greater portion of the benefit while we are picking the larger share of the cost. Tensions between our current leadership that has rebalanced the global trade picture may create some hurt feelings. And maybe the fact that they were not involved. But if we are supposed to view our European allies as equals on big issues and historical moments, then they might want to step up and actually prove that they are willing and capable. Rather than living up to the perception of being socialist freeloaders, there for the free meals, but no help on the meal preparation. The European continent has been declining recently, not just in terms of diplomacy. Declining in terms of importance on the global economic stage as well. While they have many strong brands, their economic reliance is in markets that are foreign to them. And they really do not have strong domestic economies other than Germany and Great Britain. Large social safety nets and massive debt compared to their gross domestic products. When is the last time a European nation actually contributed to the resolution of any major global event? I guess some may give credit to France stepping in when Russia first entered Ukraine back in the early days of the Obama era. Selling off parts of Ukraine for a false sense of temporary peace that was fleeting. Now, they again are at a loss. If they did actually step up to the plate, can we be sure they would be able to perform? They are completely reliant on America to protect them. Yet, currently unreliable to actually assist in any useful manner. Doubt they would be able to redevelop all that societal learning that they have allowed to dwindle away. So, if Europe is bitter about being challenged over clearly not living up to their promises and commitments to NATO, not sure it helps their image showing they are completely incapable of participating in ridding the world of a major sponsor of terror. But, I can guarantee you that European leaders will be showing up for photo ops and free meals when the mission is over and peace is declared. That may be all they are capable of doing at this point.
My Philadelphia Eagles have yet to make any progress with consummating a trade for star wide receiver, I.J. Brown. The price is reportedly a first-round pick and a second-round pick, a price that Howie Roseman has not appeared to have moved off of at all. Maybe he has not moved off of the initial sentiment about not trading great players like Brown. And having a high inflexible price is simply a clear sign of a lack of interest in a trade, as there is no real need at the moment to make a trade. Brown does not seem to be dead set on leaving, and the Eagles seem completely disinterested in moving towards a deal. Maybe this is what I think a sports media-fueled story that they hope will happen but really is not going to happen. In sports media, there is no real need for credible, irrefutable sources, just sentiments that can drive narratives for the 24-hour reporting cycles. The Eagles from Roseman to Sirianni have been consistent in their messaging. I do not think that the sports media will let up. I think some want a trade to happen, both at the national level and some local voices. The narratives that we are seeing do not seem to align with the reality of the situation. Some say the Eagles would not be able to pay Dallas Goedert and keep I.J. Brown, but they seem to have plenty of cap room and would be in a disadvantageous position if they traded him rather than keep him. The argument that it is good for the salary cap is a false argument, or a slanted one. Trading Brown after June 1st is better for the cap than a trade before it. Keeping Brown is amenable as they have cap space with his salary factored in. The question that no one on the side of making a trade is who could fill the gap this season. Some look at the Seattle Seahawks trading their star wideout and winning the Super Bowl this past season. But the Seahawks immediately went out and acquired Cooper Kupp to maintain their two wideout balance that most teams need in the modern league. Let us talk about the fact that there is no argument for trading our best wide receiver other than the media wants to advance that narrative. Trading Brown does not make the Eagles any better, especially in the short term. And any compensation will not yield a talent in this year's draft as the top receivers will be off the board well before any pick in this year's draft available in the trade. I have faith that Smitty is a number one receiver, but Brown does attract the focus of the defense, allowing him some freedom to work. For a slighter frame receiver, having that space afforded to him seems beneficial. Changing that dynamic could result in a regression in Smith's stats and less room for passes despite the additions we have made. I like the addition of Hollywood Brown, but not at the expense of I.J. Brown. I am not really seeing any need to make a move and take on a significant dead money cap hit and lose talent all in the same transaction. I think we should try to make it work and make another run this season. And if there are still issues, make the trade later. I reject the notion some are trying to sell that the Eagles' offseason has been uneventful. In many ways, the team is better given the constraints the team faced with salary cap, talent due for contracts, and future commitments that should not be harmed by short-term decisions. They have addressed areas of weakness, and have a great number of picks in this year's draft to add talent and trade for future selections. Sure, people like headlines of flashy signings and high-dollar contracts. Many times that is a result of teams trying to fill a talent void to build for the future. They are overpaying for a player that the team that drafted them either could not afford them or did not value them at the same level. If you are building for the future, sometimes you are willing to overpay a bit to secure a foundational piece in the present. For teams that have a roster to compete now and assets that have future upsides, these teams do not have splurge. Like in any industry, the market leaders tend to make value-driven decision-making with strategic moves when needed. Competitors chasing market share may try to spend more to close the gap or fill voids that they are unable to address with their existing assets. Teams like the Giants or the Cowboys or Commanders on defense are making splash moves to fill voids as they were not playoff teams last year. The Raiders are rebuilding from the ground up. The teams that win in the offseason are not always the teams that win in that very next postseason. Those that build and manage assets usually have a greater level of consistency with the extreme highs and lows.
Going forward, we are going to need to treat our discussions regarding the C.R.C. fund like how sports leaders treat coveted roster spots on a team. Not just a collection of assets, but a mix that may yield sustainable and resilient results. In regards to our Eagles, I think there are many in the national and local media trying to speak a trade into existence. Maybe they are not completely selling a narrative. But I think most rational fans want to see I.J. Brown give the team another chance and make another run with their core. There is always a difficult choice between making a change and retaining a productive asset. Both could be the right decision. And for our fellow New Jersey residents, and even people outside the Garden State, we are tired of seeing elected officials enacted policies that they know are not legal and will not stand up in court for political reasons. Governor Sherrill says she does not want law enforcement marching around pretending to be law enforcement. But she is more than comfortable watching illegal immigrants parade around acting like citizens, who they are taking money from. Silly Sherrill. Maybe the focus should be on the infrastructure in many parts of North Jersey. And fix ones that are not just in the suburbs. Maybe focus on providing real affordability rather than just hiding costs in property taxes and school taxes. She knows better. Or at least is supposed to. Thank you for experiencing this episode of the Christopher Peter Review. Your viewership is appreciated and valued. Please follow the Christopher Peter Review on social media and continue to visit www.crcreview.com for new episodes. Thank you once again. Until next time.